Well, hello and welcome to all of our viewers around the world. I'm Fiona Lang-Sharp, IBCLC Director of Communications and MC here at Gold Learning. I am so excited to be here today talking about one of the greatest topics that we have in lactation today, because there is an immense amount of research that's happening around the world. Everybody's talking about it. No, everybody agrees on it. We can all say that out loud. But that just means that we're working hard for our families to make sure that they are in alignment, that they get the choices, and that they know what's happening when situations just don't seem like they're working out. So we'll get into more of that in just a moment, but welcome. We're getting ready for our live tongue-tie symposium, which is coming up. For most of you, we'll talk about that in a minute too. Most of you, it will be on the 11th and 12th of September. You can head over to our website right now, actually at goldlearning.com, and check out all the details about this up and coming symposium. It'll also give you the time frame of when it is in your country as well. As you log in and look at the website, you'll get the complete schedule of all the speakers. Which leads me to my guest today. So welcome to Dr. Sharon Smart. It is so good to have you here today. You're going to be speaking at our upcoming tongue-tie symposium. It's fabulous to have you here today. Sharon, welcome.
Thanks, Fiona, and thank you. I'm so excited as well.
Yeah, that's fabulous. So Sharon, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Sure. So I'm a speech pathologist by background, but I've been working in pediatric with children with feeding and swallowing difficulties for 24 years now. And so working with babies and children with feeding and swallowing problems is my ultimate passion. And so having been a clinician for much of those 22 or 23 of those 24 years, I've just actually recently switched over to pretty much a full-time academic role in a teaching and researching, because to affect the most change for these babies and children with feeding and swallowing. So I feel very privileged to have that, to be in that role now.
Yeah, well, as I said, that's some of the excitement for me, is just that, we need to keep moving forward with this. There's so many people that are impacted today, with tongue-tie. And I'm not talking about, it's not just the families, it's the professionals, it's all the different professionals that are involved today, and of course, including yourself. So it really does give me such joy when we can bring, professionals like yourself here, researchers, academics, and folks that have been in the field for a long time, who've known and seen this for a long time, but haven't always known what to do. Tell me a little bit about your humble beginnings, that you first started, when you first started talking about tongue-tie and when it started impacting your practice. Did you feel like there was suddenly this explosion, or did you feel a little bit like you're out on an island when you were starting to talk about it?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because at the time I was working privately, and I was working with babies and children with feeding, swallowing, speech and communication impairments. And I started getting referrals with these concerns about tongues and tongue-tie. And at that time, and still, my ultimate aim is to assess and treat tongue structure and function, is just look fundamentally. However, it wasn't until I started to explore different training opportunities, and you don't know what you don't know. And once I actually opened up my eyes and went, actually, we're looking at tongue movements, but we're actually not really, I hadn't been looking under the tongues of all these babies to see the actual, the impact on the anterior and the posterior. So I think it changed my practice, but it was through lots of training and but seeing these clids. And then I think it was, once people know you're a little tie savvy and you've got some knowledge on how it can impact function, the referrals kind of exploded from there in my practice. So I think it was a gradual journey, though. It certainly, it started off a gradual journey, and then a little bit of an explosion in the clinic.
Yeah, absolutely. Such a great journey. I love hearing these backstories, where it all started, because I feel it was similar to a lot of us, but let's talk a little bit about the disbelief that is still out there, that this really is not something that is as prevalent as it is, or, the disagreements that we're seeing in the communities. People are very passionate about the topic. Everyone wants to learn, but why do you think that we're not on the same page yet? What's some of the problems that we're seeing in this particular field of medicine?
Yeah, so look, I think I'm hoping that as multidisciplinary professionals, because there are a lot of this, us health professionals, I think fundamentally we are all working on the same thing. We all want timely and effective assessment and management of these babies. But I think
Totally.
sometimes our approach to assessing and our approach to treating is where it's getting us unstuck. And so some professionals, I really strongly feel fundamentally we are all looking for the same, wanting to achieve the same fundamental goal. But I think we are sometimes critical of the small research pool that is currently available. But I think it's about working together to go, okay, where are the strengths in these research? And actually, there's always going to be pitfalls in research. We have to start somewhere, but let's take that little nugget and let's move it along in the future to create the most change. And I think we are in its infancy. We need a lot of more research so we can really give strong evidence and backing to our assessment approaches and our treatment approaches and the most effective outcomes for our families and our children. But it's going to take some time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like any area of practice.
Yeah. I loved your answer, by the way. That was so good. And that was an unprepared answer, because I know I didn't give you any of these questions ahead of time, Sharon, but you really hit the nail on the head there. I think that fundamentally, yes, we really do have the same goals here. I mean, we're all very passionate about serving our families, making sure that they have an informed decision to make. And I think it is hard. I think research is really tricky. As you said, the small pool of research that we have is very challenging for some people. But yes, there are nuggets that we can come together on, and let's look at what we do agree on. Let's look at some of those things as we move forward. It's going to be so important to have folks like you who, have worked clinically and now have moved into academics and research to really support the community overall, because I know that we look at you and there's such an admiration from us, really, to look at the work that you've done and a trust that you have built, within the community. So, kudos for you for having that passion, to move into that area as well, because knowledge translation, we know, is the key to learning yes. For sure. Let's talk about your topic, because here we are. We're going to be learning lots with you on the day. And the title of your presentation is The Impact of Tongue-Tie on Swallowing and the Implications for Breastfeeding and Starting Solids. Tell me just a couple of things that we're going to be talking about during your presentation.
Yeah, so I think there is quite a bit of literature and research we know about tongue-tie and how it impacts breastfeeding. But I want to go beyond that, because as speech pathologists, we're looking at tongue structure and function across the lifespan, actually, up till the elderly. So I'm wanting to incorporate some of that knowledge of anatomy and physiology and research in other facets in, starting solids, introducing lumpier textures and chewing development, and actually how the fundamental tongue mobility issues and tongue-tie, and how we can, it might not be specifically in a tongue-tie population that I'll be talking about, oral development, but actually how impairments of tongue movement can impact those areas later in life as well. So
that's going to be so important, really.
Yeah, so I think, again, it's one of those areas that we don't have a lot of evidence yet. And I have got a PhD student who's exploring this, but a long-term bar. So hopefully in a few years we'll have some evidence. But at this stage, we can provide some we know the basics, and we know the anatomy, and we know physiology, and we can make some predictions about what we think will impact long-term function for eating solids.
That's going to be fabulous. I think, again, this is about providing, knowledge to the families, to be prepared for, to understand, to look at. I actually remember my very first case of tongue-tie was actually an infant who was 6.5 months old, and this child had gone undiagnosed. And I almost missed it myself because this baby was healthy and quite big, and so what was the concern, but this parent really knew that there was something not quite right. So the tenacity of the parent, hands down the best. Always trust the parents. They teach us, don't they, Sharon? They teach us so many things. Well, that's fabulous. I'm so excited to have you present on this topic. I think that just, hearing some of this knowledge, how to translate it, how to give the tools to our families so that they are, again, they really have it in their tool belt as they move forward is going to be just magnificent. So thank you so much. And thank you for joining me here today. It's been fabulous chatting with you.
Thank you. Look forward to seeing you again in a few short weeks.
That's right. Absolutely. And a quick reminder for all of you joining us here today, you can head over to the website right now and join myself with Dr. Sharon Smart and all of our other wonderful speakers as part of the symposium at goldlearning.com. We will look forward to seeing all of you online very soon. Bye-bye for now, everyone.